Good morning. My name is Richard Wexler. Welcome to episode 4 of our podcast entitled Elder Ed, Understanding the Complexities of Aging and Care. For a quick recap, about 18 years ago, my wife and our 2 small children and myself wound up caring for all 4 of our parents. That lasted 14 years. It was an unbelievable journey, which led to our company, Points of Life, which led to educating thousands of people about this subject matter. And we started the podcast to hopefully reach out to more people as well. So this morning, we're going to have a conversation with Darra Ray. Darra is a business professional with more than 25 years of practical business and finance experience. She has an MBA from the Anderson School at UCLA, and about 4 or 5 years ago became a certified senior advisor. Welcome, Darra.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's my pleasure to join you.
You're very welcome. I have a question for you. So I know you've had a great background up until about 4 or 5 years ago. What made you want to get involved in the senior care industry?
Well, like so many people who find their way to this industry, it was personal experience. And I had simply just realized I had been a family caregiver for most of my life when friends and their friends started asking me how to navigate and how to do things. And it really came from the fact that my parents were older and I had simply experienced many of the transitions of care through life before my friends did. And having navigated the terrain myself and watching the challenge that they all were experiencing, I realized this was a really challenging space. And so I started helping them and helping them navigate when we had a colossal failure in our own family to manage well. And recovering and managing through that situation, I realized this was really hard. It needed attention, and it was something I thought I could help with.
Wow, I find that very interesting. I thank you for, I'm sorry about what you've gone through personally, and I thank you for getting involved. I mean, your story sounds somewhat similar to my story, and a lot of people that I talk with, that a lot of times it is a personal experience that kind of drives someone into this industry wanting to help. From our perspective and our podcast perspective, we're trying to look at 3 words: education, solutions, and resources. We're going to talk in a couple minutes about all the different things that you're doing in the Boise, Idaho area. And I think that what you're doing is fantastic. It fits in well with those 3 words I just mentioned. One of the things in doing some preparation and reading some of your material that I've pulled out are 3 words that we use a lot. I think you've already kind of used one, and that's education, prepared, and challenges. Can you kind of talk about those 3 words a little bit?
Sure. I think first and foremost, most people navigate this caregiving journey um, maybe 3 or 4 times. You did yours all at one time, it sounds like, Richard, right? But 3 or 4 times in a lifetime, and often over the span of 20 years. And it's very difficult to be good at something you do every couple of years, especially when the landscape changes a lot. And it's critically important for you to understand and learn what is happening in that space, what you need to know to help your loved one, and to keep that knowledge current. So, education about the information, the resources, the challenges that you will face and that your loved one will face is critically important, and making sure that you get access to that education is important. Okay, education. Second word was what? Sorry.
Prepared.
Prepared. Oh, well, of course, that's my favorite word. I want to talk a little bit about the failure that we had as a family, if I may, that really led me to this space. we thought we were prepared. I ended up moving to Idaho 22 years ago after my father in law had had a massive heart attack. And he was given 5 to 10 years to live, and we were activated as a family. We realized that was the moment that we needed to prepare, and we did. We got all of the information and documents together, financial powers of attorney, healthcare powers of attorney. My mother in law, who was a legal secretary, mobilized and she knew exactly what needed to be done. And we made sure as a family that he had no stress and she took over the management of the household and the financials. And we thought we had everything in order. 5 years passed and he was still alive. 10 years passed and he was still alive, and we were grateful. We never imagined that 17 years after his major event, he would attend my son's high school graduation, walking into a big arena. And 6 months after my son's graduation, my mother in law fell ill and died very suddenly in 5 days. And we were completely blindsided because we had prepared for him to go. And we were blinded by our own expectation bias, did not have access to the documents and information that we should have had to easily navigate her care. I'm grateful we were able to support her wishes at the end of her life through lots of negotiation without documents, but we realized that preparation was not a single activity that you do once in your life. And preparation is something you need to continue to do. You need to invest the time and make sure that you continue to stay prepared.
And I love that because one of the things that we've found, and I talk about this, that when someone has a health event, they in essence jump on a roller coaster. You never know where that's going to go, up, down, sideways. And your life, if you're one of the caregivers, tends to go wherever that roller coaster is taking them. And it sounds like, I know I'm putting words in your mouth, but it sounds like that's somewhat of what happened to you and your family.
Well, and it's once you're on that roller coaster, you've lost the time to prepare and you are simply reacting. And I will tell you that as much as it saddened me at the time, the 5 days that she was in hospital before she passed, we spent much more time managing paperwork and putting supports in place for my father in law than we wanted to, and not as much time as we would have liked to sitting with her at her bedside. I had to get a healthcare power of attorney in place for my father-in-law that named someone other than her. I needed to get a financial power of attorney in place for him because he was panicked by the prospect of having to manage his own household financials. It was not something I would want to repeat for myself, and is what motivated me to move into this space. And what I can tell you, Richard, is that 5 years later, having worked through this and really developed a system of tools and processes to help families navigate this, 23 years after his massive heart attack, he entered hospice, and I had the honor of accompanying him on his hospice journey and being by his side for the 30 days that he was on hospice in his home. And I didn't have to chase a single piece of paperwork and spent those 30 days really focusing on his care, which was a gift to both of us and is what I really believe is the ultimate benefit and payback of preparation, is being able to spend that time with your loved ones when they most need it.
I would totally agree. And that third word is challenges. And I think you've been definitely speaking about that and how I use the word complexities, how difficult this journey can be. I don't know if you've heard this with folks that you've been working with. We unfortunately have heard this a lot, and I'm trying to get people to realize that you don't want to do this, but I hear it's not going to be that difficult. When something happens to mom or dad and she's laughing, or grandma or grandpa, we'll
Yeah.
just take care of it. Have you heard that? And what are your thoughts along those lines?
So I will tell you that I do hear it, and people think I will cross that bridge when I come to it. And they assume that the resources and tools will be readily available and accessible and easy to navigate. And I will tell you, and I mentioned the hospice journey with my father in law, and having this just was recent, it was in January. And having been in this industry for 5 years, I now have part of my message is as hard as I knew it would be, it was harder. And it wasn't harder than I expected it to be emotionally. It was harder than I expected it to be practically and logistically. And I had resources and colleagues and friends who were striving so hard to help me manage. And it is a very complicated landscape between healthcare and finances and home care and in some cases hospice care to navigate and coordinate across so many vendors and disciplines while still always wanting to be by the side of your loved one for emotional support.
I talk a lot about this journey of caring for someone will never be easy, but part of what we're trying to do and you're trying to do is make it easier. And I found this through our journey. You've obviously found this through yours. As much as you think you know about this industry, the solutions, the resources, it's still very difficult and very tough. And that leads me into I'd like to talk a little bit, start talking about some of the organizations you're involved with. We'll start with two, My Care Companions and My Data Diary. Why don't you update the audience what they're about, what you're trying to achieve?
Well, thank you for asking, and it is my pleasure to share. When I became a certified senior advisor in 2018, I founded My Care Companions, and I would say mobilized and formalized my accidental consulting firm. I had been, consulting on the side for family and friends of friends, and realized that I could be more helpful if I was more accessible. And so My Care Companions helps people navigate the business side of care and primarily either that, you know, older adult who wants to make sure that they have their affairs in order, or the child or loved one of that older adult who's needing to step in and begin to help with the activities of daily living or instrumental activities of daily living. Usually, where I really help is those instrumental activities of daily living when a family needs to start figuring out how to help with financial activities and household activities. And I help families navigate that terrain of helping someone with those activities, with leaving them with dignity and grace, right? And so I work with families to figure out how to do that in the best way possible, make sure they have the information and documents they need to do that successfully. And it was through that work that I realized there was so much information and so many documents that really needed to be organized and collected. And we have a lifetime of paper documents that we've accumulated that, you know, we have to figure out how to manage and share. And I wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to really organize and do this well. And so I went shopping for a tool to help people in this digital world. I thought for sure I would find a software solution that I could use for myself and use with my clients. And when I couldn't find one that met my needs and the needs of my clients, to have a place for everything and everything in one place that was secure and easy to use, I created one. And so the My Data Diary is a software solution that I built for my own business and that I now have expanded and sell to the community and to the public. And it is a software family information management software solution that allows you to organize and manage all of your personal information and documents for yourself and everyone in your family all in one place.
Which is fantastic. I think I've mentioned this to you in the past when we were going through this the 16, 17, 18 years ago. My wife had what she called the purple folder. And in that purple folder was basically what you're talking about, because we talk a lot about care, that little four-letter, small little word, and how challenging that can be just physically if that's who you are taking care of someone. But I'm not sure if the average person out there thinks about what you were just talking about. For a lot of people, it's okay, well, dad or mom, they need to do the will, they need to do the trust, which we call an estate plan. But there are so many other documents and the business part of the care that you were talking about. I mean, how many documents could we possibly be talking about?
It's actually hundreds. If you've amassed information over a lifetime from personal, household, financial, legal, and legacy documents, property ownership, vehicle ownership, military documents that make you eligible for important benefits. It's really amazing. Banking documents, financial assets, retirement documents. It really is we don't think about it because you get it, you put it away and you forget it. And it's one of those things that, we've talked a little bit about already. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. And I was actually talking with somebody in the industry even who said, "Oh, I'm going to leave that'll be their problem. Whenever it happens, that'll be their problem." And it's an interesting concept in this life, in this day and age where people are living longer and with more incapacity in older age. You may have a need for someone to manage your affairs while you are still living, and that's something that people don't think much about. We all really, when we think about our end, we really all want it to be today I'm healthy and tomorrow I'm gone. And that's really not the way it goes for the majority of people. And I really want everyone to have the benefit of having all of the information they need and that their loved ones need to make sure they have access to all of the resources that they can possibly benefit from for their care.
And I hope the people that are listening, I mean, you really need a coach. You need someone that can inform you about all the things we were just talking about. It isn't just the trust, it isn't just the will. There are so many documents and so many things you need to be doing. And I talk about what's care. Like in our family, in our situation, my wife was more of the hands-on caregiver. I was the guy in the background that was dealing with a lot of those documents and also trying to find the resources. So even figuring out within a family, okay, who's going to have this piece of the puzzle and who's going to have that piece. But again, what you're talking about and what I'm talking about, please don't wait. Please try to get prepared ahead of time. But as we talked about a few minutes ago, that's going to change. As they're on that roller coaster and their health needs change, it's going to mean further being prepared from a further perspective and having to change things. In reading some of your documentation, one of the things I talk about a lot, and I see that you're talking about it as well, is long distance caregiving and the complications from that. Could you talk about that for a couple minutes?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think, in the United States, culturally, so many people move away from their family. In other cultures, you live very close to your family. And as we age and need more help, if you don't have your loved ones living near you, either your siblings, your parents, your children, whatever, if you are aging or dealing with any kind of health crisis, you need to coordinate care from service organizations. In some cases, if that's not possible, you need to coordinate a move of a lifetime so that you can be closer to care. And importantly, you need to coordinate with loved ones all over the country. The digital world has made that a little bit easier. You can actually get everybody on a Zoom call and start sharing documents and digitally start managing, assigning tasks that you were talking about. And if necessary, in engaging a professional, a coach, or a geriatric care manager. There's, geriatric care managers that help, but it is a complex coordination process. I think one of the things I would like to add to some of this conversation is it's not just preparing for that eventuality. We are living in a world that is quickly digitizing and transforming. And if you prepare and gather your documents and information, it will make it easier to engage in life every day as the world continues to digitize and we are asked to more regularly every day engage in a digital way with our information and our documents. So I encourage people not just to think about this as preparing for someday, but better managing your life today and simplifying the business of life so that you can avoid becoming an analog refugee in a digital world and really have the information and documents you need to successfully navigate life today.
Wow. And I know people don't like doing this. Sometimes just trying to refinance your house, so you got to get all this paperwork and everything else. It's not fun. But, and I tell people this is not fun, but the advice you're giving them is just fantastic. I talk about what I do affects, I've had teenagers in my audience when I've spoken to people. It really affects the younger folks as much as it affects the older adult children and the person that's aging. But this advice that you're giving, when should a couple in their 30s, in their 40s, when should they start thinking about this? When should they start getting prepared?
So I would actually say that's too late. People should start preparing the minute they are an adult. That you turn 18, you should start gathering and managing your information and documents. When you join your life with someone, you merge that together and you manage your household. No one is guaranteed a tomorrow. And I will tell you, it's funny that you asked that question. I'm going to tell a little story because I think it's really telling. My son is 24 years old and he went off to college when he was 18, as so many do. And I already had my first generation of my software tool at that point. And as he was leaving, I said, "Okay, Mason, you're 18 now, so you need to fill out, here's your version of the tool, and you need to go fill out this information." And like every great teenager, he rolled his eyes and was like, "Oh my goodness, mom, you've got to be kidding me." And I said, "No, you need to go fill this out, and then you need to leave a copy with me so that I have the information I need in case something happens." This was, I thought, just a life lesson for him, right? So he goes to his computer in his room, and 15 minutes later, because really, Richard, he's 18 years old. What does he have, right? So 15 minutes later, he comes back and hands me the tool, and I take a look at it with him. And I'm like, "Okay, now I have your college address. Great. I have your roommate's phone number. That's awesome." Because I didn't have, the address where he was going to live or his roommate's phone number. And I'm clicking through the tool and I'm quickly going through the financial section. And I looked at it and I said, "Bitcoin? You have Bitcoin?" And he said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "When did you get Bitcoin?" And he goes, "Oh, I bought some when I started working when I was 14, and I've just bought a little bit here and there." And I said, "Well, like, how much Bitcoin?" And he said, "Well, the last time I looked, it was worth about $35,000. And I was stunned. I had no idea he had Bitcoin. I had no idea it was worth anything. And imagine, Richard, had something happened to him, that would have just disappeared. I had no idea it even existed and would have had no way to get to it. So this is not just about what happens at end of life, but what happens every day in life.
That is a fantastic story. And through life, beginning at that young age of 18, I think we also find probably somewhat similar as we find out more information about mom, dad, grandparents, in-laws. Sometimes, like you, we're shocked, we're surprised about the information that we find. But if we're the ones that are going to be taking care of these folks, the more we know, the easier it's going to be. And as you said, so eventually, what if something happens? I didn't know they had X or Y. That is fantastic information. Another organization that you're involved with is Learn Idaho. Can you talk more about that, what it's all about, and what you're doing?
I would love to. And Learn Idaho is where my heart is. I think it really comes down to your mission, my mission, which is education. And as a professional in the care economy in Boise, I was, attending so many wonderful networking events with organizations across the valley where professionals come together to share resources and educate one another. And in so many of these conversations in early 2018 and 2019, we would be having, wonderful conversations among colleagues, and our dialogue would ultimately go to if only we could figure out how to share this information with our community, how to get it into the hands of the people who need it most, who are the aging population and the people caring for them. And we all talked about how we would do free education sessions at libraries and would try to get the information out, but we just really didn't have the size or the scale and the ability to really bring all of that information together in one place. And after several of these conversations, Richard, I just said we should be able to do better. And so a group of us, about 7 founding board members, got together and decided that we could do something. And we created Learn Idaho, the Lifelong Education and Aging Resource Network, to provide free education on aging and caregiving topics to the community, provided by professional expert resources in the community. Today, we have more than 70 professional members who are committed to our mission, who donate their time and their treasure to bring free education to the community on a website, learnidaho.org, where people can come to find quality information provided by professional resources in one place in the areas of health, wealth, lifestyle, caregiving, and technology. All of our sessions are now in our video library on demand, more than 100 videos available on demand. And then you can spend some time on our expert advice section, meeting our members, and then directly link to their resources here in the community. And it's my goal that someday, it's our goal and hope that someday, when someone in the Treasure Valley of Idaho, or Idaho generally, because we have many stateside resources now, statewide resources, when somebody says to their neighbor, their lawyer, their grocer, their dog walker, their veterinarian, whoever they're talking to, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just found out that I need to manage this aging or caregiving challenge. We hope that the response is go to Learn. Start there. Start there to find quality information and quality resources to support you on your journey.
That is fantastic. And the fact, so I assume some of that has been live in the public, is that correct?
Some of it has. We did a few live sessions, and we actually had scheduled webinars for the first year and a half. And what we realized is that caregivers are really busy between navigating their work and their caregiving responsibilities. The challenge of showing up at a specific time and place was really overwhelming. And while we would have many people register, about a third would actually make it to the event. And so we have actually transitioned. All of our education is now pre recorded and on demand, but we provide you links to those educators and resources. So if you have questions, you can follow up with them directly, and they are all more than happy to do that.
Again, that is fantastic. One of the operative words that I pulled out when you were talking is free, so people can access, and she's laughing, access this information. There's no cost to them. And what you just talked about, how busy people are that are managing someone's care or managing the business part of someone's care, and having a resource like this is great. Tell me, is your hope? I'm not aware of something like this in other communities around the country. Is it your hope that other communities follow this example and put something together that is similar?
I really do hope. We have been so delighted with the response, the acceptance, the engagement, and the benefit to our community. I really do hope that is the case, Richard. And we have had a couple of professional groups from a couple of states reach out and ask some questions. Would love for others who are interested in our model to reach out. Perhaps there's even something we could do to scale it together, right? And leverage resources. This is all about leveraging the power of many. And, I think there could be even greater strength if this were to grow in other communities over time.
And I totally agree with you. If people want to get in touch with you, again, a website, a phone number, if you want to give it out, what is the best way for people to reach you?
So I will give my email address, DARRA at mycarecompanions.com. That's mycarecompanions.com. And I really invite everyone to take a look at our website, mycarecompanions.com, mydatadiary.com, or learnidaho.org.
Wow, this has been fantastic. I have learned a lot through this conversation. I hope other folks have that are listening as well. Some great information around education, around being prepared, and really understanding the challenges or complexities of this issue. As we wrap up, folks, I wanted to give out, as I've done with our other episodes, the email where you can reach me, my team, with comments, questions, etc. And that email is eldered2023 at gmail.com. That's ELDERED2023 at gmail.com. And I really want to thank Darra for her time this morning. Once again, I learned a lot, and I hope everyone has as well. Thank you, Darra.
Richard, if I may, I would love to offer your listeners, if they're interested in our software solution, please go to mydatadiary.com and enter Points of Life as the discount code for a 15% discount for you and your family. We would love to offer that to your listeners.
Thank you very much. That is fantastic. Until we talk again, folks, have an awesome day. Thank you. Thank you, Darra.
Thank you.